Okay, it is now 11 o'clock. It's time to start the stream. I'm just waiting to hear myself to see how things are going. Okay, everything is going, and I'm actually trying out a new chat thing in the corner compared to how I've been doing it before in the past. Um, so the chat section should look a little cleaner now. Excuse me, I'll probably be still doing some tweaking um, in the future because I just discovered this little handy thing today. I really shouldn't say discovered, more like actually took the time to look up a easier way to do it than how I was thinking of doing it because OBS allows you to customize the excuse me, my nose suddenly just dripped. Allows you to customize the CSS or cascading style sheet of an HTML window that you have that you can embed in here, which is how I've been doing the chat. And I've used OBS's filters to be able to get rid of extra stuff from the YouTube chat box. And I found out I could just customize the CSS, and I have been sitting down thinking okay, how am I going to do this? That's a lot of work. I know how to do cascading style sheets. I'm mostly versed in CSS 2.0. I know a little bit of 3, but I don't know how to really play around with this CSS. I found out someone created a web page that will generate the CSS for you. So I started playing around with that. So there's still a little bit more tweaking I'm going to do. I prefer a little bit more white space on the edge there where the avatar of the user is. And I might see if I can play around with the CSS that controls the avatar to see if it has to be round or not. Maybe I can make it a square with rounded corners or something like that. So there's some stuff I want to play around with like that. But we're actually working on 3D models today, specifically one 3D model, or a group of 3D models, or maybe a 3D model project. That's probably the best way to put it, a 3D project of the Kingdom Crusaders Clubhouse, which I've been working on for, I think it's a couple of months now, maybe more. I would have to look to see when I first posted the video up, and I have no idea how long I worked on it before that. So thank you for joining the stream. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you to Sasami-chan for his intro as always. Hello, Sasami-chan. How are you doing? Don't know if you're just listening to this in the background or not. That's cool. Just saying hi and acknowledging that I really liked what you did. Okay, so let's see here. Like I said, working on the Kingdom Crusaders Clubhouse. I actually had this old render up because I was doing some comparisons on the inside of the treehouse, trying to get the lighting to more match an older render I did that I really liked the lighting on. So I'm going to turn this back to the other reference I was using. Yeah, that's the reference I was using to figure out where this back branch. Okay, just do that. Okay. Don't mind me while I relearn some controls. Okay. moving some stuff around here. I have a very cluttered desk. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I got all the bottom branches here, and other details like the shape of the trunk and stuff like that I will be doing later once I get the rough in of all the branches I want. Excuse me. Now, this is a wonderfully complicated mess up here, isn't it? Okay. Let's see here. Now, how am I going to do that? I think this is going to take a lot of extra modeling after I rough things in with the technique I'm using right now. So let's turn this around. Click on this, go back over here. That. That. Duplicate this collection. Nice those out of the way. Okay, I'm gonna rename this to top house. I know I want to distinguish it from the bottom part. So why don't we call it top tree? Yep, too many E's. Ah, what am I making this for? Myself. um, basically, like I started on this project a long time ago. When like, let's see, which season was it? It was like the middle seasons of Gen 4. Because I was seeing a lot of like 3D art trying to be 2D art. Um, and all of it drove me crazy because I'm like, why aren't you guys doing it? Like, you're like getting the general idea across, but you could actually make that look like 2D. It's not really that hard. Of course, that was a little bit of arrogance back then, because like it's hard, um, but it's not as like hard as I think people think it is. So I'm basically doing it for myself to prove to myself that I can make something that's 3D that looks 2D. Um, and looks 2D convincingly without the that weird kind of uncanny valley you get with some 2D, some 3D, 2D stuff. Um, because it's just, especially when you animate something that's 3D and looks 2D, you get weird kind of oddities. Even some of the stuff from Arc System Works still has that a bit of uncanniness to it when they animate certain things. It's like specifically when really smooth animation interacts with the more traditional 2D style animation, um, pacing and frame counts that Arc System Works does, because their philosophy is anything that looks 3D, get rid of when they're doing their stuff. But there's still a lot of uncanniness in there, especially when they do certain animations and they allow physics, the physics calculations to do certain things. Like I've noticed hair kind of behaving oddly, and especially when backgrounds are animated smoothly as opposed to the character who is animated kind of the more jumpy style. Um, the more let's see, there's actually a term for it. Like it's I can't remember. Um, there's this term that says the type of count of frames, and I can't remember the name of the term right now, but basically it's basically terms for keyframes, and I can't remember what these specific terms are. But like when they like go a little bit out of that, or they have a smooth animation where the computer's done some. Here's this: when they've had the computer do some type of an interpolation, is when the 3D and the 2D looks kind of create that uncanny valley when they've had the computer do some interpolation. It's kind of like when people use AI interpreters to increase the frame rate of a 2D animated cartoon. You get this weird uncanny valley thing going on, and it creates some kind of weird smushiness. Um, it's kind of like that. It's because the AI or the interpretation doesn't really know how to do the same nuance and personality of how a hand animated or hand 3D animated feels. Um, so it's that kind of when you let the computer do too much work, you get this kind of uncanniness in there. Especially if the computer with the training AI hasn't looked at the right source material to know how it's supposed to feel. Because that's the real problem with a lot of the AI interpreters for increasing frame rate of projects and videos is the AI interpreters are taught based on real world video. They're taught based on real world stuff shot at 24, 60, and 120 frame rates. They're not taught on animation animated at 24, 60, and 120. So when they look at a 2D drawing, they're trying to interpolate it based on real world images. So the computer's guessing based on what it knows, and all it knows is a person moving as opposed to a person drawing movement. So yeah, I was like, I know I can do stuff that looks like this. So that's what I'm mostly doing it for. I'm doing it for myself to prove to myself that I can do it, and it helps me improve my skills at making 3D modeling. Like right now, this is also a practice in more geometric, more house and inanimate object building because I have like no practice at doing any um, organic animate objects like living things or apples or I haven't done anything like that yet. Though I think there's are there apples on this tree? Yeah, there are apples on this tree. At least in this shot. Although that's something I just noticed. Like I noticed a lot between references. Um, in this shot, this tree is a normal apple tree, but in this shot, it's a zap apple tree. So that's interesting. Uh, huh. It's kind of like when I notice like weird things they do for perspective and stuff like that. Huh. Okay, so now I need to come up with a plan for this. But actually, I'm going to need to move this tree branch over. So let's highlight the pieces. Zoom out a little bit. Zoom out a little bit here. Let's grab this and move it over here. Zoom out on this. Grab, put it on the top. Okay, that it's also this is more on the front side. Okay, now where do I want to put the center of this? Ah, thank you, Sasami-chan. Ah. Also, thank you. My brain is now having trouble reading the Ryozuka? Ryozuki. There we go. Because it's an I, so it would be an E sound. Okay. Ryuzaki. Zaki. Ryuzaki. My brain is just not reading that today. I know I've pronounced it correctly in the past. Okay. So, and I've actually gotten some good feedback. Well, not really feedback. Well, actually, you could call it feedback. Um, from recent places I posted some recent renders of this. They're all like, dude, it looks like the show. Wow. So people are like, dude, that is really uncanny how well you matched the show, especially in the color palette. I'm like, thanks. And there's a reason. I color sample the show as often as I can get. Because it's just easier that way. Because colors aren't copyrighted. Now, if I traced it, then that would be a problem. Um, but I try not to trace anything. And these tracings are more like to get a clearer image of what's going on. So when I actually construct it, it feels more like what's going on. Okay. Now, where do I want this center point to be? D, 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 D. Okay. Also. Okay. D, 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 D. And thank you for asking that question. I'm just gonna say Ryu to just to keep it simple for me. For now, to make it easier to say and quicker to say. Um, thank you for asking that question. Um, also, I'm now reading over the rest of your comments since I was talking and explaining at the time. You're trying to do the same, making 3D look 2D. I do character creation animation. Yeah, if you're doing character creation, it pays it pays a lot to look at good examples of this. Like, there's actually two good examples right now of two different styles of getting 2D out of 3D. Um, one of them is give me a second here, Genshin Impact. They do a more traditional 3D modeling style and character creation. Um, but a lot of their shadows are baked into the character model. So that one's not as flexible lighting wise as Arc System Works. Arc System Works, their technique is more flexible when it comes to lighting and real time adjustments because of how they do their texture technique and how they handle their lighting and um, stuff like that. Like there's this channel that I've been looking at recently that's actually been going over on how it's been doing short videos and explaining how to do something like Arc System Works character creation method and how they handle it. Give me a second here. I'll actually look it up. Um, because I've been actually studying it to get some ideas on how I want to handle shading for this model as it is right now, because it doesn't quite behave the way I want it to, because of the way the Eevee rendering engine handles stuff compared to the way Blender's original rendering engine handled things. Um, let's see, which one of these is mine? It's that one, yeah. Because this is from one of my older renders back when I was still using Blender's traditional rendering engine. And if you notice, the lighting looks a lot different than... Give me a second here. I will actually switch this to the inside. So I need to do a quick change to the model here. So other than the way I have the rope right now, you can see how the light is handled much differently. It's hitting here, the highlights are here, here, and in this area. And if you look at this one, the highlights are much lower in the overall image compared to how this is handling it. It's because in this one, I was able to tell these wall surfaces here, here, and here to use a light source, excuse me, that was different than the light source that was handling other aspects. Like this shadow here is actually from a different light source. Because of how you could tell surfaces and meshes in the more classic Blender rendering engine how to handle lights. You could actually group objects together with lights, and those lights would only affect that group of objects. And you could also tell the light to not just affect its own group, but to affect everything. Or you could have a light that was outside of the groups also affect the groups. It was very customizable that way, as opposed to how Eevee works. Eevee is much more of a realistic light rendering engine. So any light in the scene will affect all objects because that's how light in the real world works. Unless you put the light in a box, you can't limit the light's reaction to objects. But I've learned of a technique through this YouTube channel called proxying. So I may actually be able to use this proxy technique to change the way the normals of the model behaves. So I might be able to get some control over where the light, the highlights are behaving. So I'm not actually changing the light source, I'm changing the way the surface reacts to that light source. Okay. Now. Let's see if I can find the channel. Yeah, I'm not even like remembering the name right now, so I'm just scrolling through the list of channels I subscribe to. Okay. Trying to remember what the channel... if I see the channel's name, I will... Oh yeah, that one. So... Maybe better just look at my history. I've also been looking into using geometry nodes for some stuff I'm thinking about in the future, because you can do some pretty interesting stuff with geometry nodes that I've been looking at. So I may be able to use that to actually change the way the structure behaves depending on where the camera is. So the structure itself could, in real time, transform, kind of like how it would be something similar to how in the Lord of the Rings movies, how they built sets to do perspective tricks on where real life actors were in relation to each other on camera, and the set would actually move as to keep the perspective as the camera moved around. So as the camera moved around, like table parts would actually shift to maintain the perspective to make it look like two actors were sitting across from each other when they were actually several feet apart in depth. So I've been thinking about using geometry nodes for that. So you could move the camera in the so you look through this camera here, and as I move the camera around, parts of the object would shift and disappear and move out of the way to allow you to look at the structure and maintain perspective. So if the camera was outside, the structure would be shaped one way, but then if the camera moved into the inside of the structure would actually shift unperceptibly to the camera. But if you looked, it's kind of like how when if you look at certain games and you break the camera away from the way it's supposed to look, you get some really weird stuff in games that are trying to emulate 2D, where a 3D model of a fist is huge compared to the model because of the way the perspective, the stylized perspective was drawn in the show. So they matched the show by completely deforming things to make it fit. Okay. You should check out Royal something. He is doing a series on Genshin Impact anime shading. It might help. Yeah, like I said, I'm actually watching this series where a guy actually explains the different. He explained the differences between how Genshin Impact does its shading and how give me a second here. I've been using their name constantly for the last little bit, but my brain just broke. Arc System Works. Okay. I just want to find one of the videos. Apparently, I listen to a lot of stuff on YouTube. Okay. And when I say listen to, I actually mean I listen to more stuff on YouTube than I actually watch, because I usually listen to it while I'm at work. Okay. It's how I learn a lot about stuff. Though I save the 3D modeling stuff for when I'm on break or back at my living situation, so I could sit down and actually watch the stuff in the 3D modeling, because you can't really learn a lot from 3D modeling by listening to people talk about it. You can learn some stuff, but it's better to be able to watch it and rewind it and do that. Wowzers. Just a lot of wowzers. Also, what do you think of the way the chat looks right now on the stream? Uh, Critiques? Because, like I said, I'm tweaking stuff on it, so I can change things in the future. Okay. Aha! Here we are. Okay, yeah. What's really funny is that's actually the people I'm talking about. I just found the channel that I've been talking about, and it's actually the channel you mentioned, Ryu. Yeah, the last video I watched on theirs, What's my main gig? As in what I do for work outside of this? Uh, and thank you for the comment about the chat room, Sachani Chan. Yeah, that's what I was going for. I was going for clear, something that's easy to read. There's plenty of spacing between the characters. Um, and doesn't have all the extra stuff I had to put in place to make it look reasonable. Okay, so let's change camera angles back here. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to change this actually back to material view because it runs a little bit better on this system that way. And I'm going to turn the back wall back on and change this back to, where are you? D. Nope, that's not it. That's that one down there. Okay. Not that one. Is it this one? Nope, that's not that one. Where did that go? I hate it when stuff disappears. Because that's that one. Oh, there we are. Okay. Okay, there's a 17-second delay for you. Okay, because for me, let's see what the current delay is. So I'm gonna turn on my audio and snap my fingers here. $15. My delay is about 15 seconds. Okay. Let's get back here. So, just go back to Ryu. Just to make sure when you say gig, do you mean the job I do most of the time? Okay, so let's go back to working on this. Push that out of the way. Scroll down here. Okay. Now, what do I want? Because I am gonna have to pick a nice center spot for this. But first, let's just do this and hit tab for a second. Okay, the center is right there for both of those. So, okay. And I can't, going back to the delay, I can't really do much about the delay. It's a big combination of the time it takes for my machine to render a frame, to upload the frame, and for Google to process the frame. So right now, it's taking my computer about 1 millisecond to render a frame and output, so that's 1 millisecond. Then it takes a millisecond or so to upload the frame to Google. Then Google processes that frame, which probably is another millisecond, and then your machine downloads the frame. And there's also the delay of between each part, like how long it takes for my frame to so how long it takes for my frame to get up to Google servers is also time. Then it processes there. Then the time it takes from there to your computer. So there's all that time it takes between me and you, so I can't really. I can only control part of that, like how long it takes to render on my machine and how long it takes to get to Google servers. That's the only part I have control over. And I've done everything I can to reduce that down. Um, okay, so welcome back, Ryu. Um, and just in case you didn't hear it, I was asking if you meant the job I usually do when you said gig. What I do outside of this. Okay, so let's turn that. Let's tab that open. Uh, um, let's see. I'm gonna like not to give too much away about where I am. But basically, I'm a janitor. I clean things. Um, and yeah, that's my day job. Yeah, not the best day job, but it's the work I could get. Dee 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 dee. Gives me a lot of time to think and listen to stuff, so that's good because I don't need a lot of brain processing power to go. That's dirty. I'm gonna clean that. Okay. I think I'm actually gonna move this down. So I'm gonna actually move this down. So the origin point is right there. Hmm. 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 Ah. Okay. Um. All those sounds was me going ah. So that's I know how to do what I want to do. So I'm not gonna actually need that. Um. And let's see here. That should be the cue. Yep, that's definitely the thing I was looking for. Okay, so we're going to go back to that. We're going to add a Boolean modifier and tell the Boolean modifier to be that. Okay. And that way it acts as a mask and keeps any of this tree from being inside the structure in a viewable fashion. So going back to the day job thing, it's nothing special. Okay. Now we can edit this. Actually, grab that. Let's actually move it more towards. And it seems like the center of the object is right about there. Okay. Now, how to rough this in? Excuse me. Well, one, this is definitely going like that. Okay. And that is more out to here, and it's higher. Let's turn that off and highlight both of them again, because I actually need to move the whole thing up a little bit. there. Back to here. I'm actually going to grab this and pull this so it's inside the structure. Okay. Yeah, that feels about right. Okay. Okay. Hmm. Okay. So there we go there. Okay, so this is also leaning towards the right. I think the center is actually a little off center here. So go here, grab this, move it this way. Okay. That over here. Okay. Grab that and move it. Okay, so why don't I actually put this over here and select all, subdivide, grab a new point and pull it over here. And rotate it. Okay. And we now need a top-down view. So I can grab that and move it more towards that. D D D. Uh, okay. Yeah, I'm really liking how the chat is looking. I guess I'm gonna be doing some tweaking, like I'm gonna add some more white space around the chat so there's a buffer around it that I don't know if it would be margin or padding. I'm gonna have to play around with the CSS to see what that looks like. Okay, so this actually. No, that's not gonna do what I needed to do. Yeah, you have to like lessen the bend. Okay, so let's do. There we go. And also going back to Sasami-chan when he said, or they said that the order of their chat was different than the ones on screen. Yeah, that also happens because of timing. Um, like the chat's display is also linked to when the messages came in on your side. Okay, so we're almost at noon. About 15 minutes left. That's okay. I might go a little over it today. Okay. So why don't we actually set the radius of this to 1? Actually, that's too much. Let's try 0.5. That's a little too much there. 0.25. Yeah, that feels about right. And let's make this 2.5 as well. Oh yeah, that feels like the thickness of the branch. Okay, what does weight do? Seems to be changing the shape slightly. Hmm. Let's grab this, move this around with the weight set to almost none. Hmm. And now let's set this to 1. And move it around. Yeah. Okay. Okay. D D D D. Okay. Let's see here. Now, let's see. Um, D D D D D. Let's change this to wireframe. Let's change it to solid. Turn on transparency. And actually, that looks like it flares out a little bit up there. So let's do this and subdivide and subdivide again and do that because we just need it closer there. And let's change this to 2.6 because it's not really that much wider. So let's try 2.6. No, it's gonna be a little bit more than 2.6. Let's try 2.8. That's closer. That's closer. Okay. And I think Ryu, I think you've mentioned your projects before. Um, what are these projects for again? Um, I might look up your channel name in a little bit here. Uh, okay. Okay. I think I will actually add an edge split modifier to this. For a second here. Just to see what that looks like at the end. Because I think what I'm going to end up doing, yeah, because it's a very, it stays the same here, then it really widens out. So I am going to actually increase this more. So why don't we put this up to 3? That's getting closer. Excuse me. And I think I might turn this away from the camera slightly, because right now you can catch a little bit of the flat edge here facing towards the camera, but here it's kind of facing away and it's probably slightly rounded over. Because of the way that is. Okay. So, okay. Let's see. Let's turn off that so I can look at the mesh structure itself. Oh, I was like, why is it? Oh, I'm rotating it. Okay. There's that. Okay. Proportional editing. Oop. And I keep doing that again. Why? There we go. Yeah. I could give you my feedback on some of the videos sometime. Though they'll probably be in the though they'll probably be in comment form. I may not like do it during one of these streams since I'm primarily focusing on building my own model here. Okay, so I could do that, and that would give me more of the shape I want. And I think I could even shift it slightly down. Okay, you know, I just thought of something here. Let's try just shifting this down. So let's grab it, lock it to that axis, and just shift the model and actually expand out the behavior here. And this is just me playing around, looking at what it looks like when I distort the mesh this much. That is a really neat effect. Okay. So let's do this again, except let's just tap on this. Decrease the size a little bit more. Yeah, I'm gonna have to scale it up first and then slide it over. If I'm gonna do that to duplicate more of how we have this nice fall off this way and more of a sharp fall off this way. Okay, so actually I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna hit scale, hit this, and let's scale that out and increase the influence. That feels like that right there. Go here and here. And let's move that. Expand it out. Okay, that feels about right. Let's turn that back on. Let's look at the mesh. Okay. Yeah. That's looking good. Hmm. No, no problem. I perfectly understand when internet's being a little wonky. Okay. So, right now I'm just like looking at the model, playing around with how I'd like to influence it. Thinking of ideas. Okay, let's tap on that and turn off that for now and see where that is. Let's turn off that panel so we have more view here. Okay. Turn this back on to see where it is. I'm actually gonna hit save first here, then turn this back on. Okay, so I actually want a little bit over. I think that's close to things. so that's definitely the top edge of that curve. Okay. Okay, that changes the mesh like that. That changes the mesh like that. Let's make that more of a smooth bulge here. See how that gets affected. Okay. Yeah, so by manipulating it like that, it doesn't quite work in the way I'm thinking it should. But that's okay. This is all about playing around and finding out what works for the type of model I'm making, and in the future I'll be able to use that knowledge a little bit better. Okay. So we got that. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to undo the tweaks I've done to the model up here. Okay. Okay, and I'm going to save that. And yeah, it's pretty high poly, I think. I'm doing it right now because of to get it. Here's the thing about, like, if you want something to look 2D, it takes apparently a lot of polygons to pull that off, because a lot of the meshes for Arc System Works are very dense poly meshes. Um, because you have to have a dense poly mesh to get some of those nice smooth lines of the 3D model of the 2D images. Um, so right now I'm actually using pretty dense poly models for the trees. I'm probably going to reduce the meshes in the future, because I'm actually going to use a technique when I'm done with all the rough ends to trying to remember the name of it. I think it's retopology. I think is close to the term, or is the term. Um, I'm going to actually use that to basically build a mesh around these rough forms to be able to do more of the detail work in the future, like to get these nice curves here and this indent and how the roots are coming out in these unique directions, and to get this nice smooth curve across here that I don't have currently underneath here, is I'm going to retopologize the tree afterwards. In that process, I will build the mesh more uh let's see, more efficiently. I'll give higher polys to the parts that I will give more polygons to the parts that need it, as opposed to the parts that don't. Um, uh, yeah, I am actually using subdivision on some of these models right now, but as I work on them, I need to see the shape as close to what it's going to be in the end as possible. So I like having the higher poly mesh. And I'm trying to remember, there was this panel you could actually bring up to actually see uh, the polys of the mesh you currently had selected. And I suddenly can't remember where that is. Maybe it's under object and it's like details or something. Okay. Could also be under view. Okay. Well, it's been a while. Oh well. I just know there was a panel somewhere at one point that I can't remember right now that will tell you the number of polys slash vertices that are in a mesh. Um, and I don't really need that per se right now. I can look them up in the future. I know the textures I'm using right now are very they're pretty high texture mesh because each individual object has its own texture. Um, and usually like groups of objects actually share one texture. Um, but right now each individual object has a has its own texture mesh. Uh, it might be in the status bar if I do this and select all. Collections. Nope. Nope. Okay. Nope. Oh well. I can always look it up in the future. Okay, so it's just after noon. I'm gonna end it there for now. I'm actually thinking about switching this to actually go the other direction. So instead of this being one object here, I'm actually going to switch it so it's this branch that goes off and then add another object on that goes off onto the side here. Because I think with the way the mesh, I should say where the image is behaving, it's going to be more efficient to do that. Ah, not my name. I like that. Hi. Thank you for joining the stream. I don't know how I was thinking of wrapping it up, but I may continue a little bit. Uh so I may as well take care of that right now. I'm thinking I'm just going to actually change the direction that that's going because it's going to look better in the end if I actually have an object coming off on this being this branch instead of actually making the base object come off this way. So if I take the base object and actually have it be this straight line, the end model will look better. So I am going to do that right now. So thank you for joining, not my name. Wow, that sounds so odd coming out in a sentence. Like, hello, not my name. That's like naming a kid what or no. What's your name? No. Why won't you tell me your name? I did. Then what's your name? No. Who's on first? Uh, what's the name of the band on stage? Okay. And you can tell how old I am based on those references. Okay. Let's see here. Oops, wrong thing. I want to edit. I want to go back to the freeze curve or the control curve as I call it. Okay, turn that on and what's going to be the easiest? think I'm just going to highlight both of those and go over to here. And actually, let's highlight that and put the cursor to there and change this to the cursor point. Highlight both of those and then rotate it based on that point. Okay. I love how everyone's reacting in the chat room like that. Okay, so we've got that rotated. Let's go from a top-down view here and now rotate it so that more matches that. Go here and actually rotate it up and move it to the side a little bit. Okay. I'll put that right there from now. Zoom out. Yay, Blender freezing a little bit and slowing down. Yay! Okay. And in case I haven't said it, thank you for joining us. Not my name. Let's see. Lux chooses this episode to branch out. Puns. They're my favorite kind of pain. Okay. Okay, so we have this coming up. Okay. So that comes up with that. Let's zoom out on this one a little bit so I can get more of the roof. So yeah, this needs to be moved over. So I'm gonna move it over to like here. Let's bring that down and over here a little bit. Does that feel close to that curve? Let's draw the curve here. Okay, we still sit on a straight line. Whoops. Okay, let's erase that and set this back to this. Okay, so we have a control point here. It looks like we have one here. And we're going to have one here and the end here. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. Okay, so we have 1, 2 here. That curve does feel right, so let's move that up slightly. Also, let's turn off that. Okay. So actually, let's move this down to here. Okay. I almost want to like shorten it to not my, because that sounds funny to me. Hello, not my. But it sounds kind of foreign too, because you know I'm an English speaker, so everything sounds foreign to me. Okay. So That is a very interesting username. How did you like? Did you just choose it one day? Did something influence you to pick it up, or did you just think it was funny? You went, "Yeah, that's my username." Okay. So I think it's about right. Let's pull that out a little bit. Actually, that feels about right. So let's do this and highlight that, subdivide that. Also, for those who have worked with Blender in the past, does anyone remember or at least know the new shortcut key for subdivision? I have to right click now. I used to be able to do subdivision by hitting a shortcut key, and I can't remember what that key is, and I don't know if they changed it in the new version of Blender. Also, this actually needs to go down a little bit. So let's grab this and pull it down some. Okay. That's good. I like that. Control 1 is subdivision. Okay. Oh, yeah. That's me remembering the new philosophy behind a lot of the shortcut keys I've seen change in Blender. In the past, the shortcut keys were very simple. They were usually one key or control one key to get what you were going to, but they've added more functionality into the shortcuts. So subdivision and moving and stuff like that have, excuse me, more modifiers to it. So you can do stuff like that. So you can hit control and pick the level you want to do and how you want to control the skew or how you want to control the modifier. That reminds me of my other username. You can see a lot that I use is Siray. I pronounce it, but it's spelled SiYray. So a lot of people pronounce it C-Ray, but I pronounce it Siray because of like I like the word I there. So and it's so unique that everywhere I've used it so far, people are like, "Yeah, you can have that username. No one else has it." It's surprising how often Lux and Lux Brush is used by people. Okay, so I'm actually going to need another control point right here, I think. Because of the thickness differences, we get two relatively same size thickness through here. This is a little bit thicker, maybe, but it's really thin right in here as opposed to the thickness at the end here. So I may need a control point there just to control the thickness. Okay. Okay. Okay, got that. So I think I need to move this more right. Yeah, that actually, that feels better. I think I need to move the whole structure now. Wrong button. Okay. Yeah, that's another thing. Like trying to get if you're a person who a lot of people know, and you're trying to keep your name across platforms, it's kind of hard sometimes. This is also why I try to, when I'm coming up with a new name, I try to keep a theme so people can see the theme and go, "That's probably them." Um, like almost all my usernames have something to do with light and dark. Um, like ray, a ray of light. Lux, a measurement of light. Uh, so stuff like that. Okay, so we've got this. That's sticking out a little bit. That is okay. I can tweak that some. Okay. Actually, I'm going to tweak it a little bit now by moving it over slightly. Okay, let's actually move the whole thing this way a little bit more. DD. That feels about right there. That thickness feels pretty good. Though I probably want something right around here. And I'm going to want to make the bottom wider. So let's open this control panel. The radius is already at 1. So can we go higher than 1? Can we go higher than 1? Let's try 1.5. We can go higher than 1. Okay. Ah. Also, vanilla or chocolate ice cream? How about both? Both is good. A little from column A, a little from column B. I almost always at those all you can eat buffets would do the swirl of chocolate and vanilla. Also, I'm still trying to figure out um, why people think vanilla is a plain flavor or um, ordinary. Because like good vanilla is a very complex flavor. um, so I'm like, how did something complex become the synonymous with plain and boring? Okay, so let's actually do 1.1. That's 1.2. Yeah, 1.2 feels about right. Okay, so we've got that. So that's a little bit tweaking. Okay. Can we tweak that a little bit? Can we just pull this down here and move this over a little bit? Check my alignments to see if they're still. Okay, let's actually move this like so. That reminds me of like another thing. Vanilla also is a really good flavor enhancer. It brings out the flavor of a lot of other things that when you use it together with other flavors, it actually enhances those flavors. It's kind of like salt actually can make things taste sweeter. but it can also make things taste less sweet. It's really interesting because like salt can bring out and enhance the flavor of an object you're using it with. Hmm. Okay. D D D D. I think it's like I think what happened now that I'm thinking about it is vanilla was probably one of the easier flavors to manufacture, so it was the easier one to get out there, and it became the most common flavor. And people have a tendency to connect common with plain, so people got the concept that vanilla was plain, so boring. So that may have been a thing. Okay, so D D D. Also, I just realized I hadn't been paying attention to scaling too much and how long out this arm, this branch goes. So now I'm going to look at the scale here and see how far out the edge of the branch actually goes. So let's change this back to a straight line. Use this as our marking point. Okay, yeah, it goes out beyond the edge of the tree and matches up with this pole. So if we take this pole and use our annotation and create a line straight up. Oh yeah, I have to turn that layer back on. Okay, and hide that. Turn on the eraser. Shift spacebar 8 for shortcut. Okay, shift spacebar 8. Okay, so I just shift and spacebar brings up this menu. And okay, gonna have to practice that in the future. So here we are. We have this one. So we're gonna go straight up from here. Now, how high is that? How do we measure that? D D D D D D D. So I'm gonna need to pull this out. Also, the center of this is right over that. So this actually needs to move over too on the thing here. So now I'm going to look back at the chat because I have two screens set up right now. I have my editing screen, which is above my main monitor, and my main monitor is my control setup right now, and that's where the chat is. So I have to look back down here. Okay. I feel bad for vanilla, so sad. Yeah, yeah. And some flavors are just the dye, not the fruit. As in, like, some flavors are just color, not the fruit. Also, vanilla plus cinnamon plus marshmallow. Yeah, yeah, very tasty. Okay, let's see. There are a lot of things that you don't realize the size of until you put them on a grid. Yeah. Save it and then Alt F4 will make it look good. Ha 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 ha. Because Alt F4 closes the window you are currently working on. It's kind of like when someone says I can DDoS your machine, and they ask for your IP address, and you give them the local IP address of their own machine, so they self-attack themselves because they don't realize that the IP address you just gave them is the loopback address. Yay for script kitties. Okay. So, how do we judge how high that is? I just realized. So I have this over here. This is about right. So, okay, so this edge matches up with that edge. So I need to actually move this over so those two match up. So let's go that, and this matches up with that. So from here to here. Okay, so here and here now I need to match up with this and this. Okay, so that's going to be a whole thing here. So we're going to select that and that. And I'm going to grab this and move it over until it fits there. Okay. Now let's see how high this is. Huh. This back edge is actually not as low as it should be, but that's okay because I'm not trying to be super exact. I'm trying to match it as closely as possible. And also by having it slightly different than the actual show, it makes it, less likely to get flagged by someone. Okay, back to the chat. Ah, yeah. M&Ms are all the same flavor. Though technically they are slightly different flavors because of the dye. Because the dye, even though it can be flavorless, can't affect the flavor. But it's so minute that unless you've trained your tongue to pick up on it, you're not going to pick up on it. Okay, so let's see here. Now, how do I measure? How am I going to measure this height in an easy way? Do, 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 do. I don't think using a grid would help in this case because of the way the grid is overlaid and scaled between this window and this window. Because I've tried to do that before and it kind of messes up. Especially when you haven't been building it with a grid in mind. So I'm gonna have to use the scale of the object, so I might have to count object height to figure it out. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Ah, well, I'll see you later. Not my name. Uh, it's a true statement as well. It's just it trips up the brain. It's like not my name. Yeah, that isn't my name. Um, okay. See you later. Have a good time wherever you are. Okay. So let's see here. I'm going to finish up figuring out how to measure this out. Speaking of which, save. And then I will wrap up the stream because I have chores to do. But thank you all for hanging around. It's nice having more people talk in the chat room. It really does help. And the more people chat in the chat room, the more likely this is to get pushed up into other people's feeds and they can see it. So, interactivity, liking and subscribing, and all that stuff. So, in case you're still hearing up my name, I will not be doing a stream tomorrow, but I will be doing one next week at the same time, starting at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Tuesday and Wednesday. That's my usual streaming time. But every other week, I do not stream on Wednesdays because I have an appointment at that time and I can't push that appointment around. So there's that. Okay. Let's see here. So I've got that set up. I wish I could draw out a shape with an annotation pen and grab it and move it around. That would help things a lot, because then I could measure by doing that. TD. Okay. Can I grab grease pencil lines and move them around? Because that's what I need to do. I need to be able to draw a shape and select that shape and move it around on this 2D image here. And I don't see any way to select that. I remember that episode, and I also remember that at one point they were using the wrong map. That's if I remember the right episode. So you're saying I can grab grease pencil lines. So how do I go about grabbing grease pencil lines? How do I move it around in edit mode in the image area? Because that's where I need to do it, and I don't see any controls for that. can create new layers. I can add more blocks. Ah. So how do you add a grease pencil object to the 2D view panel? Because that's what I need right now. I need something like that in the 2D view panel for an image. Also, I wish there was some way to select in the annotation system. It's kind of weird that I can't. Okay. So, can actually... I got different... Huh. That's interesting. And I can make it more transparent or not. I can change the thickness of the lines. That's handy. Okay. So Shift A, grease pencil. Okay. So Shift A. So yeah, you can't do that in there. So I guess, yep. Shift A, grease pencil in here, I bet. Well, not in here, but yep, there it is. So I can only do that in the 3D window. Because I need an object in the 2D image view panel. Is there, maybe it's under texture? Or could I do it in paint? Could I change that to painting mode and be able to select annotations from here? Nope. Mask. I can add a circle or a square. Wrong button. Okay, what does that do? Okay, that did that. Um, oh. I think I just found something here. Okay, yep, I just found it. Now, can I duplicate this object? I can duplicate that. That doesn't duplicate that. Okay. So, whoop. It does that. Oh, that's kind of handy. I might be able to use the masking tool here to do what I want. Okay. 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 Yeah. There we go. Not what the tool was designed for, but it will still work. Okay, so now we have a scale for our height. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5, 7 3/4. Okay, so we now know it is 7 of this one high. So if we duplicate it, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay. I now know how high it is to be. Because if I look at the reference image, the center of the end should be right around here. And looking at that, I can... Yeah. So we'll finish this up. Okay, so... I think the best way to actually handle this is to actually do that. Put the cursor to there. Highlight all of those. And that. Make sure we have transform from 3D cursor set. And let's just scale it out. Rotate. And actually, I'm just gonna leave that like that. Maybe. Let's look at this. Yeah, I know my workflow is very inefficient because as I'm going through, I'm learning stuff. So it's going to be very inefficient as I learn things. Um, Thank you for the recommendation, though. I honestly know that my workflow is very inefficient. Okay. Da, da, da. Put that right there and rotate it based on that and scale it to there. Okay. Now, let's look at the side here. Okay. Let's look at this, see how this feels. Yeah, that actually feels kind of okay. So yep, I forgot spacebar. I had my hand on the wrong item. Okay. Thank you. Have a good time wherever you are. See you next week. Okay, I'm just gonna that. Let's pull this in. Oop. Okay, that's actually about over the. That's actually about where it should be on mine. So. Okay. So I am going to call it right there for now. So let's save and wrap up the stream for today. Thank you for all that stopped by. You all have a nice time wherever you are. Thank you for everyone who watches this later on video on demand. Um okay, let's see here. Thanks to Sasame-chan, Ryuzake, not my name. Thank you to all of you who joined me. If you want to help support this channel, like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. If you're here during the stream, chat up the stream. As long as you keep it civil, you can have as much fun as you want. Okay. Um, if you want to help support this, oh wait, I'm gonna go back to stuff you can still do for free. We've got multiple things on this channel. We've got the live streams, we've got Ember's Reading Room, and we've got our Thoughts On series. The live streams are me currently working on this 3D model. Then we have Ember's Reading Room, which is me and Ember sharing our thoughts on childhood stories, where we look at it from more of an adult perspective, how we've changed our view on the books as we've gotten older, how much we still like them. I talk about the art mostly in these books. So far, there has not been a bad one in the bunch. There's been different art styles. There have been weird printing mistakes we've noticed in some of the books. Ember reads the stories, and me and Ember talks about how we feel about the stories. We have a playlist for all of that. We currently have plenty of episodes for you to watch on there. And then there's our Thoughts On series, where me and Ember talk about pop culture that we like. I should say pop culture items we like TV shows, movies, video games. More TV shows and movies and video games. We have a playlist for that too. If you want to help support the channel financially, if you happen to have some income you'd like to spare my way, I should say our way, thank you very much if you do. We have a coffee and a Patreon. The coffee is a one-time fee, a small donation, usually around $3. There's also a digital store on there where you can buy higher resolution versions of art I've released before online. These images are usually about twice the resolution that I've released before online. I also have some backgrounds on there. And then there's Patreon, where you can get my art and updated information on this project about 3 weeks early. And the updated information on the project is more about my general thoughts to where I'm going with it, higher quality renders of what I'm currently working on. Stuff like that. Okay, let's see here. talked about Patreon. It's currently about $1 a month, and there's a $5 level that will eventually get a modified version of this 3D model I'm kind of thinking about right now. Um, will have lower quality textures and get rid of all the junk that I have in there, and it'll be much more organized in the object tree. So you can play around with it and look at it yourself. I might add some notes in somewhere that you can look at to see my thoughts on particular parts of the project and how I've noticed things over time of how different things got tweaked about the images. Okay. So thank you again. I hope you all have a good time wherever you are, and you have a yeah, and yeah, wow, just tripped up right there, right, just tripped up right out there at the end. Excuse me. Well, I hope you all have a good time wherever you are, and I will see you all later. Thank you again. Bye.